I'm Colleen Appel. I use she, her pronouns, and today I speak as a representative of the Social Action Circle and also as the fill-in pianist for the month of June and July. Eva gets to take a break, Dawn gets to take a break, and I get the privilege of playing the piano. So any other musicians are welcome to also serve in these 2 months because it's a whole lot of fun. What is a blessing? Our faith uses the idea of blessing to refer to something good, something that feels like a gift. Now let's shout out or share in the chat box if you're online some of the things we consider to be our blessings.
My dog.
Children.
Friend Matt.
Help.
Chuck. Flowers.
A reliable car.
Hot water.
Hot water.
Music.
Music.
Flowers.
Flowers. Rain.
Cat.
Cats, yes.
Sunny days.
Wonderful. Did anything show up in the chat box?
No, sorry.
Okay. What about those who don't share the bounty of blessings? Those who lack safe housing or reliable transportation or steady meals. For the last year, the Connecting Grounds has been studying possible solutions to the growing humanitarian crisis on the streets of our community. They have examined national best practices, looked at local data, listened to those with lived, unsheltered experiences in our community, and have used innovation and creativity to develop a solution called Roots of Community. This model is designed to meet the unique needs of Springfield and to collaborate with community partners so that together we can achieve the goal of reaching a functional zero number of people living without shelter in our city. Reverend Christy Love, director of the Connecting Grounds, has invited faith communities from all over our city to be a part of this effort. Churches have been asked to introduce the Roots of Community project during the month of June and consider what they might do to support this effort. During today's service, members of the Social Action Circle will offer details of the Roots program, and following the service, you'll be able to ask questions. Sherry, I turn it over to you, and we'll get the slideshow operating here.
Good morning, I'm Sherry Buchanan. My pronouns are she, her.
Yeah, forward.
Hereafter, I will refer to the Connecting Grounds as TCG, or any combination of those letters that happen to come out of my mouth. According to TCG, there are 1,500 people in Springfield lacking permanent housing. You'll find these people in programs, hotels, in cars, couch surfing, and on the street. Current shelter sources are far short of 1,500, with many of these available shelter sources being available only when temperatures fall below freezing. What are the costs of homelessness? One homeless person costs the local community more than $30,000 per year, and one child in foster care costs the state $25,000 per year. TCG projects that stable housing offers a cost savings of 50% for adults and 70% for children. Roots of Community will be a system of 2 trauma-informed supportive transitional sheltering campuses in Springfield, Missouri. One will be designed for families. and the other for singles and couples without children. This effort will be part of TCG outreach and will offer individual care plans to support individuals and families creating and pursuing a personal path of success out of homelessness and poverty, while helping our community move closer to a functional zero goal of individuals on the streets of our community. Roots of Community is a supportive sheltering model that would combine elements of 1, housing first, 2, diversion and prevention, and 3, moving on models. The design of this model draws on the wisdom of those who have a lived homeless experience in our community to help this program uniquely address the following objectives. Lower the number of families in the foster care system due to homelessness and/or poverty. Provide stability and security to individuals, families to improve in one or more areas, including employment, job training, physical health, sobriety, mental health, and positive relationships. Help individuals and families identify the best long-term housing situation for them. Create a plan to help them qualify, apply, save, and plan for that living situation. Reduce personal barriers to success by providing a mailing address, clean clothing, rest, nutrition, vital document access, health insurance coverage, and transportation. Reduce the number of repeat instances of homelessness that an individual family experiences in our community. The proposed timeline is in 2022 to obtain financing through ARPA, that's the American Recovery Plan funding, private funds, financing, city zoning approvals, purchase of the land for Roots of Community, have the plans drawn up with an architect, an open dialogue with the community to cast vision and address concerns. 2023 would be the groundbreaking construction underway for phase 1. 2024, guests move into phase 1. 2025, fundraise for phase 2. 2026, construction underway for phase 2, and in 2027, have guests move into phase 2.
My name is Mike Brown. Over and over, the TCG team has found themselves in conversations and situations where the team says, if only Roots existed, we could make a difference in this situation. The following are real-life situations in our community that would dramatically be impacted if only Roots were to become a reality in our community. Details and names have been removed to protect those who are struggling on our streets, in hotel rooms, in shelters, or caught in an in-between place. A young mom fled an abusive relationship in the middle of a snowstorm. She found a rare opportunity, buckled her toddlers into car seats, and left with just enough clothes and toys that would fit in their trunk. She fled to family, but soon learned that that was no longer an option. Most partners who experience domestic violence will leave and return a handful of times. And it was for this reason that the shelters in the closest proximity would no longer admit her. Despite the uncertainty of where she was to go, she promised her sleeping children that this time was different. This time she was not going back. Since that night, she's been able to stay in a hotel due to churches and other organizations that have helped to fund her stay short term. She has spent her days getting on housing waiting lists, applying for aid, and being told no over and over. She spends the majority of her day counting down the days till her hotel room is up, hoping there's one more church or more funding to keep her and her children sheltered until something else comes available. At this point, there is still a next step. If only roots existed today, she and her children would have a stable, safe place to be in order to get back on her feet and begin to heal and move forward. Months ago, the impact of COVID on the economy caused numerous families to lose their jobs, shelter, and often their children. One set of parents was proactive in securing funding to keep them sheltered and together while they dealt with the loss of their home, but soon their housing voucher expired as they could not secure a large enough space to support their 7 children. They wound up on a waiting list again, this time for low-income housing. They were told they should have an opening in 30 to 60 days. 30 to 60 days with nowhere to go. Currently, the family is living in a hotel, pursuing efforts to fund their short-term stay and calling their housing office daily for updates. They tried family shelters and crisis nurseries, but they were either full or unable to accommodate their family of 9. They've done everything right. Everything is set, at least in 30 to 60 days. But until then, where did they go? If only roots existed today, this family would be able to catch their breath and provide safety and stability for their children while they wait for their name to come up on the housing list. Last year, we all celebrated when one of the families we were working with who had children in the foster care system was able to bring babies home. We celebrated her progress with addiction recovery, therapy, setting boundaries, and creating a life for her and her children that is healthy. Her biggest struggle was the barriers of transportation and childcare costs while maintaining a job as a single parent. For a short season, she chose to live with family to help support her. When family life became unstable, she made the incredibly brave decision to leave in order to protect her children. Living in a shelter, she's working hard to figure out what is next. She's been told the waiting lists are long, child care costs are high, are not provided through the shelter, and navigating rental prices in this housing market feels impossible. She's been working so hard, it feels like no progress has been made. If only roots existed today, this mother would have a place to help with child care and transportation, and a real chance to create a better future for her and her family. Every few months, she stands before the judge. She has made so many changes since she gave birth in a hospital with no home to take her baby home to. She has been navigating the resources, has been sober for 10 months, has held down a job and has been promoted, and has finally received support for her mental health. And for the first time in decades, feels like her mental health support is working. But a history of evictions and a very minimal income in comparison to rental costs has made finding her own space even beyond challenging. She asks, how can you be stable if there is no way to be independently stable and to be poor? With no support system, she is exhausted. She worries she will never bring her baby home. If only roots existed today, this mother would receive the housing support she needs in order to bring her baby home. At 30 years old, this young man has struggled with type 2 diabetes since his early teen years. After losing a job, he ended up on the streets where many of the foods that are served are high in carbs and sugars, and he struggles to maintain healthy blood glucose levels. His backpack was stolen. His testing unit was up. His insulin has to stay refrigerated, which is almost impossible on the streets. Injection and testing sites can become infected without access to regular showers. Miles of walking every day are hard on his feet. And when he develops sores, he has to be extra careful due to his increased risk of amputations to his feet. Working a full-time job is hard when he does not feel well every day. Often his sugars are well over 300. If only Bruce existed today, this individual would be able to stay on top of his testing and medication so that he was in better physical condition to work a full-time job. After fleeing a domestic violence situation, this woman slept in her car with her dog. The dog both kept her warm, offered an element of security, and helped with her mental health during the hard season. She tried to call many shelters for help, but was not able to enter with her dog. She did not have anyone that she trusted to keep the dog for her, and she could not bring herself to surrender the animal who had helped her through so much. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. As the weather got colder, sleeping in the car was no longer a safe option. Multiple men offered her shelter, but she knew that the offers came with strings and expectations. And she was cold. If only Bruce existed today, she and her dog would be able to stay in a safe and warm space. After aging out of foster care without a support system, this young adult found themselves on the street. They were in a housing program but could not afford their rent on their minimum wage job once the subsidy ended. With no family that they can ask for help, they end up on the streets. They crash on couches of friends, sleep at cold weather shelters, and sometimes sleep in stairwells. All the time praying for a family to care and for a place to belong. If only roots existed today, this young adult would be able to experience a community, get job training and educational support, and move their life forward in the direction of their dreams. The community partnership of the Ozarks affirms there's more demand for services right now than there are resources available. Might the Roots of Community project be the plan that functionally ends homelessness? What might first you do in response to the crisis on our streets?
Reverend Michelle has added the following words to our message. For the past 2 years, I've been so grateful for the support of this community in our collaborative work to host a site for the crisis cold weather shelters. In the first year, when we hosted in our building, we were able to provide warm, safe shelter for 20 to 25 people each night that it was below 32 degrees. This past year, when the shelter was hosted at Asbury United Methodist Church, we were able to provide shelter for almost twice as many people, as well as somewhere between 7 to 15 dogs per night. This is such an important service that we can provide for those who are homeless on the streets of Springfield on the coldest nights of the year. Even so, the capacity in all of our shelters on the very coldest nights isn't even enough for a quarter of the people on our streets. On top of that, the sporadic nature of a temperature-dependent system makes it incredibly difficult on people who risk losing their belongings each time they leave them to come into shelter, or have to decide whether to come in one night when it's forecasted to be 31, when they know the next 3 nights it will likely be 34 and they're stuck outside. We have to keep doing what we're doing to help, and we have to do more as a community. Reverend Christy Love and the Connecting Grounds have been a source of constant support, encouragement, and crisis intervention for our friends on Springfield streets for several years now. One could argue that this organization is the one that most fully understands the ever-changing needs of the homeless community. For that reason, I am 100% behind Reverend Love and the Roots of Community proposal, and will work in whatever ways I can to support it, both as a concerned citizen and as a minister. I hope you'll all join me in support of this much-needed project. It is not something that one leader or organization can accomplish on their own, but together we can all make Springfield a place where each person has the resources they need to thrive, and a community that is cheering them on, honoring the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and upholding justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. May we consider all of the ways that we've been blessed and commit to being a blessing to those who most need it now. The Social Action Circle exists to mobilize First UU in support of social justice by bearing witness to and protesting social injustice, providing services to those in need, and raising funds for groups whose activities are aligned with our principles. You are invited to remain in this space after the service for a question and answer period. Well, Reverend Christy Love will be joining us at 11:15 on Zoom. So we're going to stay up here for an enhanced Zoom experience, both for us and for the people online. So blessed be and amen.